real estate in 2007. It was 14 2007. Everything was crashing. The market was crashing. And this guy, Abraham Shreve, had an offer out on one of my listings. And we had extended the closing 17 times. Okay, maybe it wasn't 17, but it
felt like it for sure.
And I was very polite, as I was taught by my fearless mother. We treat all agents as if they're clients, whether they like it or not. And I was treating Abe with respect. And Abe did us a one-up, and he flew to California in the morning to get documents signed, and then flew back the same day to hand deliver those documents to the title company. So we finally closed on this property. And there entered Abe. I'm like, this guy. We went out to lunch. I shared my story with Red Book, and he had this vision to grow a big business. And henceforth, he became a Keller Williams agent. I can't even remember the company.
I was with C21. Yeah. I never had the jacket.
No.
Not a chance I was doing that.
Anyway, fast forward, Abe and I became good friends. I mentored Abe for a good period of time until it outgrew me. Became the team leader of the South Ogden Market Center. Moved on to become vice president of sales for Destination Homes. And then calls me up and says, hey, I'm really thinking about getting into MAPS coaching. Can you help me out? I'm like, okay, I got it again, guy named Tony DeSello. Anybody here know who Tony DeSello is? All right, that guy is boss. And so anyway, we kind of connected through that route, and lo and behold, Abe became Tony DeSello's wingman. And he shadowed calls for Tony DeSello's clients, because Tony, who's probably the #1 real estate coach in the entire country, had announced that he was going to retire. And I remember that phone call. He said, Josh, I'm going to retire. I'm going to have somebody on the line for the next year. Was it close to a year? You shadowed? I don't even know.
It was actually only 2 months. He said a year. I was gonna start doing heroin if I had to do a whole year of that.
He's like, his name is Abe Shreve. I'm like, what? Abe's going to become my coach? I'm like, what? Hold on a second. Anyway, Abe did such a phenomenal job. He coached most of the top teams in the country for Keller Williams. Became a disciple, if you will, of Gary Keller's. And as a result, became business partners with Gary Keller in MAPS business coaching. So now Abe not only knows how to coach real estate teams, real estate individuals, but also now knows how to coach Fortune 500 companies. And especially through a market shift, which Abe has been through one. He knows what he's doing, and he's here to help us learn how to rock the recession. So without further ado, please give a warm welcome to a friend of mine.
See that? So is this loud enough? Can you hear me okay? It's throwing the sound a little and I feel dizzy. So that's a delightful feeling. Hey, come on down here, you guys. I will do something special for those that sit in these seats. I showered this morning. Can you guys come down? Will you come down here? I promise it's not bad. Yeah. Come on down. There's a part of Josh's story that is important to share with you. The transaction that we were doing that I had extended had some more components to it. It was right there. You guys are wonderful. What's your name? Trikel? I am renaming my youngest daughter that name. Thank you. That's great. She doesn't know that's happening, but I'm sure she'll be fine. So at the time I was doing a transaction. There were a lot of things wrong with it. I at the time was focusing on listings up in Weber and Davis County. So I didn't work in the Sugar House area. I was doing this deal for family, which is just awesome, isn't it? You should do it for free or charge them double, and there shouldn't be anything in the middle. And so in this case, I was doing it for free. And a lender that I had used literally hundreds of times started to fall on hard times and just really drop the ball on this transaction. And I remember I didn't even hear from Josh. Where'd Josh go? I didn't even hear from Josh the first like 3 extensions. I talked to his team members. It was really amazing. And then he called and let me have it. And I remember when he was ripping me, and that's what it was, make no mistake. But when he was ripping me, I remember at the time thinking, how is he so composed? I would have lost my ever-loving mind on the other side. And now he's like, they're canceling, it's over. And I get business from referrals, and now these guys aren't going to give us any referrals. But we actually had our loan docs, and now they're canceling. So I asked for 24 hours. I asked for 24 hours extended. If we did $1,000 non-refundable, he said, let me go ask my clients. Who put up the 1,000? Dear brother-in-law. And then I booked a flight, and I flew to Sacramento, and I met my brother and sister-in-law in the airport. And we found a notary, signed things, flew back, called Josh, and said, here's what I did. It's done. And he's like, we have to meet. And it really did kick off, a lifelong friendship. When I first came to KW Maps coaching, I had some unique experiences. I had built some other businesses. One of those I had sold, and I had great coaching. Tony had been my coach for 6 years. Not that I qualified to be in Tony's schedule. I guess he takes one charity case a season. It was me. Something about the conversations we had, we connected to one another. And later it would become apparent because I came into coaching and they threw their problem child at me. Has anyone here heard of a guy named Matt Townsend? He's Matt Townsend, isn't he wonderful? Matt and I are dear friends, and while Matt was getting his doctorate, I taught his classes. Matt is a communication, especially relationship communication expert, and I had the privilege of teaching his material. He had tried to have other people teach it. The problem is those that come into his classes are typically at the edge of divorce. He's not a therapist. He teaches models and systems for growing together in a marriage. And I had brought him in to teach our leaders. I was the team leader. They made me the team leader in a moment of poor discretion. And I remember I went into MAPS coaching with a background, having learned from Matt Townsend, having had Tony as my coach, having had Josh as a mentor and Lee as a mentor, and I had great people. And I also had been mentored by a gentleman named Brad Wilson, who was the owner of Destination Homes. I say was, because they sold their company to the Larry H. Miller company, and I'm not sure what they got for it, but something tells me Brad doesn't need to work anymore. And so they throw their first problem child at me. He did around 700 transactions, and he was chewing up coaches. He's a jerk, they said. They threw me the jerk. What's your name? Tony's not a jerk. I'm just asking Tony. That's rude, isn't it? To do that? Absolutely. Thank you. Felt rude to me. I get on the phone with this guy, and I said, we started talking, and I said, how are you misunderstood? It's a good question, isn't it? I just want to know, because he sounded like a jerk to me. I have autism. I'm on the spectrum. I don't emote. I don't feel. I don't know how to do sarcasm. I'm completely analytical. And what do I know about the jerk? He's not a jerk. He doesn't feel. So if I read intent into what he says, then that's a self-inflicted wound, isn't it? We coached for about 1.5 years. We became really great friends. He's done amazing things. So the pathway to coaching has been really an amazing one. I did well with that one person, so they started throwing me some of their other problem kids. And a good coach knows what they know because they become the aggregate knowledge of the people that they work with. The people that I've had the pleasure of working with through KW Maps coaching and now in our company, they're not successful because I'm their coach. They're successful because our relationship works when we're coaching. And in our business, Maps Business Coaching, our mission is we create sacred partnerships that require the best in us to bring out the best in them. More on that later. Now, just to clarify a couple of things, there's KW Maps Coaching, and then there's Business Maps Coaching, and that's just our goal to create as much confusion as possible. I feel like we're crushing it. So just a quick story about how that came about. Again, I got to coach amazing people, and I would do a call with Josh, and he would say something, and I would learn something and take it to the next call. And then I would learn something from them and take it to the next call. And by the time I got back to Josh, I was 48 times smarter because I had 48 other coaching clients, and then I would bring all that back around. And it was really an exciting time. I got a call one day that Gary was interested in me sitting on a panel at family reunion. I peed right down both legs. Metaphorically, it didn't actually happen. And I remember we did an initial call and spoke on the phone. There was a group of us, and then we talked about what we talked about. And then we got on stage, and anyone that's been up there knows he didn't talk about any of that. In fact, he started with me and he said, okay, well, Abe, let's hear about you. And it caught me so off guard that I flubbed it and just went, I'm Abe and I like coaching. Literally just about like that. I like coaching. I must redeem myself because I got to do that the next 4 years in a row. And then I got approached by him to open up business coaching. Now, this had been attempted in the business. This had been attempted by others, but it failed. And there's lots of reasons that I think things don't work out. Some of those are on Gary's side, expectations and understanding what you're going to allow a person to do or not do. But also, there were two factors that I think kept that business from taking off, the business coaching side. Number one, those that were doing it had never coached. And remember what I just said a minute ago, a coach knows what they know because they're the aggregate knowledge of the people they work with. We teach our coaches, the second you take credit for something your client's done, you're embezzling from their effort. He asked me when we first launched the business, what's going to keep you up at night? That's a creepy question, isn't it? What's going to keep me up at night? I didn't have to think too hard. I'm going from the person that helps you get clarity and you go do it to the one who does it. You guys are on the front line of your business. And I have an incredible respect for the front line of business. I'm on the front line of my business. And so they had never coached, and I think it's hard to create a coaching process and hold people accountable and teach other coaches how to do something if you've never done it. In fact, now there's 3 people I coach still to this day, just because I don't want to fall out of touch with it. And I don't want to be a leader in a company that doesn't know what it's like out there. Our coaches bring the best, bring the latest models and keep us fresh. The second thing is they went to big companies. McDonald's. If we get McDonald's and we get coaches for all the people that own McDonald's franchises, I never even thought of that because I've always lived and breathed with the entrepreneur, the business owner, the weirdos in this room. You're my kind of weirdos. I say that with love and affection and respect. And so we launched our business and it started to grow. And then we had our first profitable month, and then COVID hit. Yeah, thank you. That's knowing laughter. I'd like to believe, or you're laughing at me, but I'm going to go with knowing laughter. COVID hit. We have a lot of, we understand a lot more now, obviously, about COVID, and I think it got really politicized. I'm not going to get into that here, but do you remember in the beginning, right in the beginning of the quarantine, that was scary. We didn't know what was going on. I remember I did a call early with Gary and he said, you have one job, come out of this with your business intact. That was his message to me. You have one job, just do that. So this is important background and it'll play into what we're going to talk about today because we're talking about a shift. Our client is the local business owner. We don't coach realtors. Our sister company, KW Maps, coaches realtors. We coach everyone else. And we have about 300 businesses that we're coaching now. We're in every state in the US, which sounds impressive, but it's nowhere near where we're going to be and where we're going. However, I remember right at the beginning of the pandemic, I started calling our clients because I wanted to know, what was Gary's counsel to me? Keep your business. Yep, keep your business. It's easier to just survive and keep your business than it is to start over again when this thing passes. Well, when I launched the company, I went really entrepreneurial. You can have your own coaching team, your own look, your own brand. But I noticed we started to grow quickly. People were doing exactly what I asked of them. The problem was we were starting to cannibalize each other. the best way I can describe this is it's the equivalent of agents in a market center stealing from each other's teams. Anyone here ever experienced that? Don't point at one another, but just think about what that's like. It's not good. And I remember saying to Gary, this is happening and I need to change it. And for the first time in my life, I can see the train coming while there's still time to get off the track. Every time I move, does the sound go weird? It's that one. I'll put it in the middle, see how I do. Like I've got the plague or something with these things. So I realized that we had to change our model. And we had to go to something different. This is hard. This would be like Keller Williams coming to you and saying, I know we launched profit sharing in this, and you can have a team and kind of all these things, but now we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do something 100% different. It's about 6 months of no sleep. Now the truth is I still don't sleep, but it was a rough 6 months of no sleep. But I did it. And then 2 months later, the pandemic hits. So I sit my family down. I was pretty transparent with them about what was going on. I said, we're going to take half of what we make right now. I get to pick what I get paid. And as a business owner, I meet our needs and reinvest every dollar in people. The faster we grow our team, the more ready I am to achieve our goals, right? And so I sat him down and we talked about what we would do. We did buy a lot of toilet paper. That was smart. I went to my executive team and said, here's what I've done. I'm not going to mandate that people cut their salaries, but we need to get through this. Voluntarily, they all followed suit. It was so inspiring. I started calling all of our clients. I didn't want the coach to call because that's weird, right? Hey, you ready for your call? By the way, can you still afford me? Are we good? Can you still pay for me? Will you pay for me over your mortgage? It's weird. So I would call and I would say, hey, I'm Abe Shreve. I'm the CEO of Business Maps, and how are things going? It's getting rough, but we're good. How's the coach? I'd never want to do this without my coach. Great. How much do you have in reserves? We're good. What's the number? Oh, I think it's this. Will you go to your bank account and tell me the exact number? You sound serious. I am serious. Will you do that? The message was, we're your partner when times are good, but we're more your partner when times are tough. And what I discovered in about 60 of those calls is they were not ready. They were not prepared for what was coming. We cut all of our coaching contracts to a flat 500. We have people that pay $3,000 a month for their coaching, flat 500. Because what was Gary's counsel? Keep the business at all costs. I couldn't have done this 2 months earlier before we had redone our model and our culture. But now I had the right people. During that period of time where we made that change, it was so difficult. It was so hard. I know you're looking at me and thinking, that is the picture of all testosterone. However, I must have cried buckets of tears. It was so tough. And, but we did the hard thing. And I can report to you, before God and all the angels, we didn't lose one client. We had a few that called. I remember there's this team in Fresno that called. They're a speech pathologist. They're called the Talk Team. See what they did there? The Talk Team. We coached them for a long time. They called and said, we have to take your advice. We have to cancel coaching. We're doing all this. Their business was done in person. And they had to figure out how to go virtual doing speech pathology with kids in school. And I said, no. What? No. Do you have any other questions? And they, what do you mean no? And I said, well, no, we're not. You're not doing this alone. You're not going to do this by yourself. You may not pay us for a while, but there's no way we're going to leave you now. And we coached them for about 2 months, and then they called and said, we got it figured out. We want to go back. We did that for 3 months, and then I extended it 1 more month, and then I extended it 1 more. So we did a total of 5 months. So I'm going to talk to you today about some lessons that I've learned in business building. This isn't going to be a traditional business planning clinic. Is that okay with you? Can I share some things that aren't just real estate stuff? Is that all right? You want to learn more about other businesses? Can we do that? You guys cool with that? I would ask you to be here and be present and be in this with me. I understand that that phone, you use that phone to make it rain Benjamins. I get it. And I would just say that for the time that we're together, invest in yourself and look in, and I really want you to get serious about what it is you need to do in this next season. We're in a tough season, and it's only going to get more unique. You like that choice of words? Unique is better than hard, right? Isn't it true? This is going to suck. However, it's in these moments that we learn how to get good. So I want to start off today. Let me see if I can get this thing working. Oh. I'm going to share with you 3 important truths. If I go too quickly and you're like, I didn't get it, I'm happy to share these slides. Gordon, wherever Gordon got to. All right. So 3 important truths. First of all, just a little bit more about me. This is my family. My daughter there, Maddie, just got married. Isn't she beautiful? That's Cord. That's her husband. I could not be more happy with this kid. In my mind, her whole life, I thought at some point I'm going to collect weapons and I'll be cleaning those at the kitchen table when the boy shows up. And then he showed up and I was wholly unprepared to like him so much. I'm also greatly aware of what you're all thinking when you look at Teresa, my wife, and then you look at me, and I think it's rude what you're thinking in your mind. But I'm okay with it. That's my son Ethan on the far right. He's 16. Gavin's on the left. He's 14. And that is sweet Aaliyah in the front. And she is the sassiest little sucker. She runs our little jerkwater operation. We often talk about the great why. That's mine. That's mine. And I take them on this journey with me. I'm in a season. We launched something early this year called the Millionaire Business Network. I'm going to talk about it just a little bit later. But we first talked about it almost a year ago today, not quite. It was December 21st. I talked to Gary, and we came up with this idea. He said, I want you to speak at family reunion on this. On this thing we just made up just right now, this thing that doesn't exist. In 2 months, you want you to speak on this thing? Yep. Okay. So we got after it. It's been a crazy season. I don't like to be away from them. In September and October, I traveled. In 8 weeks, I traveled 8 times, speaking to different groups and speaking around the country and helping to get our business started. That's hard on me. It means that I have to be really on and focused in the time I set aside to do my work, so I don't sacrifice the time that's most important to me with the people that are most important to me. I didn't always get that. I could goof around at work or just be a little unfocused. It comes easy to me. But this is the reason that I focus, because when I go home, I just want to be their dad. I just want to be her husband and be all in. Let me tell you, come on. All right, there we go. This thing has COVID. I'm sorry. For the love, mother and child. Okay. Now this is Gavin when he was young. I think I figured. Someone was pressing the wrong button. This is Gavin. Maybe some of you have heard me share this. He was a little boy, came out like that. He is the most like me, which means he is an innately gifted manipulator of his parents. That's my dad right there, and that's my brother Aaron. Everyone give them a big wave. They came down to make sure I didn't mess this up for you. No, I'm grateful to have them there. And so we call that the smolder. You should see it now. It's only developed. Oh, I guess I gotta be standing over here. Okay. I didn't stage it. We were at the Olive Garden. It was hot. I had my first iPhone. We used to call it the iPhone. And I looked down and saw this and thought, that's my son. And he's such an individual. We found that doll that looks like him. And you know what? This is the honest truth. When he sees this picture now, the same look comes out. And so one day, Gavin comes to me and Teresa's out and away, and we're in the potty training phase. And I've changed 1,000 diapers. I'll change 1,000 more because I just want to be showered in grandkids. I told Maddie before she met Cord, honey, just get pregnant. Dad, okay, all right, do it right then, I guess. And, but I've changed 1,000 diapers, but I've never liked it. It is so gross. And I have an active gag reflex, and Teresa thinks I'm just being dramatic, but it's gross what comes out of those kids. And, you know, so we're working, it is, right? It's disgusting. We got to figure something else out. That's $1 million idea. Another time. She was gone, I was watching the kids. I recognize dads don't babysit, parents don't babysit, right? They parent. And I was parenting because they were near, they were close. They were doing their thing. I was watching something and it seemed important. And I knew I could put it back together before she got home. Has anyone done that? They're coming home, I got 15 minutes. I got to put together 4 hours worth of effort. And you pull it off, it's a gift I have. Gavin comes to me and says, Dad, pulls on my arm, Dad, I went potty on the floor in my bedroom. Yeah, my name's Abraham, so I'm naturally disposed to want to sacrifice one of the kids. And I wasn't sure exactly what it was he said. You did, what'd you do? I went poop on the floor in my bedroom. Take me to the scene. So we go in, and he was telling the truth. He had done that. And so there's this moment. I want you to take me to this little face. There's this moment where I'm about to, I think you rub their nose in it, is how you stop that. And I'm thinking, but I have this realization, I call it a momentary moment of wisdom. All day I've said to him, hey buddy, if you need to go to the bathroom, don't go in your pull-up. Buddy, if you have to go, don't go in your pull-up. Today we're not going in our pull-up. What have I not said? Never told him where to go. I've only told him where not to go. And he has come to me, his dad, his hero, hopefully still, to report to me that he's done exactly what I asked of him. It actually hurts my heart a little to think about if I had responded with the full body shiver gag reflex that I naturally wanted to, because how does a child of that age differentiate between that reaction and that's how you must feel about me? And I found a quote that I think really goes along with this. Josh, will you read that really, really loud?
It's what we think we know that keeps us from learning.
It's what we think we know that keeps us from learning. And we're a small enough group. Can we just play with each other? What does that mean? Will someone commentate on that? Share with me what you think that means. And it's gonna be awkward if I stand up here and no one says anything. Close-minded, what you have to say, you can't say 2 words, you gotta say more. I know.
Just that we're close-minded, so we can't.
Sometimes, right? Sometimes we have a tendency to be a little close-minded. Did I see a hand up there? Great. There's something powerful about being new, isn't there? Thank you. Yeah, well said. The greats recognize it's a journey and they never reach their full potential, but they're always chasing it. I think I saw another hand somewhere. Yes, please.
I think we involve ourselves with social towards one another, so our beliefs aren't challenged as much. But if we were to reach out to groups that make totally different groups and involve ourselves in multiple different social circles that help refine who we are and our beliefs and actually help us learn more.
It's a great point. I think this is a group that is about, that's the right social circle. I love that. When we hang out with people that only confirm the way we've done it, there is no growth. Uh-oh. Don't start making a list of who you're going to jettison out of your life just yet. We'll get there. Let's go up there and then we're coming over here. Mm.
And it's so big, it takes such a solid sense of who we are, like insecurity, because what they're saying is insecurity. I know, never be So it's, instead of, it's curious.
Mm.
Like, I don't know. In our industry, we want to be right, we want to know everything, we never will.
Yeah.
But the more we open our minds to be curious and find out, we will learn a lot more.
There's real power in, I don't know, but let's learn together. Let's do that together. I did have the opportunity, as Josh said, to coach about 2/3 of Gary's top 100 over time. And you know what I've learned? A common concern, a common fear even at times is they're going to find out I don't know as much as they think I do. And that's among the highest producers. So having the ability to acknowledge that it's not me that knows it all. My job's to do the best I can to continue to learn and to model behavior that's healthy for growth, like admitting when we don't know and asking for the right help. That's great. I saw a couple. Let's do a couple more. Yeah, please. Ah.
Two better suggestion. If you know something, it's a physical thing that if you, I know this, then you can't absorb what it is that's different. You have to be open in order to actually be able to see and comprehend what's in front of you.
Oh, I think that's good. What's your name? Emily wrote that. Did you hear that? Emily, was there another? Please.
Now, kind of on the same lines as Emily, is that assuming things. So when I consultation, they say I want a 2-bedroom or 2-bathroom, 2-car garage. Well, I know what that means for me, so I assume it's the same for them. And you have to learn to go next level, go one level deeper, and find out what it means to them to have a 2-bathroom, 2-car garage, because it could be different than
Yeah.
mine. And so we miss opportunities if we assume.
When Maddie got married, she got married in Tucson because that's where he's from, and we must have made her mad. So she got married there, and our Airbnb said 2-car garage. We drove our truck. It's too deep, and it was made for a Fiat. So it is important to get clear. One of the things that I've learned, just not only in my personal experience, but working with others, is that we have a tendency to label who we are and more often who we're not. And it's not completely uninformed, because in our company, in Keller Williams, we talk about behavior assessment and behavioral fit, right? We use the KPA, and prior to that, it was the AVA. Some of us will use an assessment called the DISC. There's Myers-Briggs. We have one called the MPA. It looks a lot like the KPA, but it has behavioral roles for a lot of different outside of real estate industry positions. So we have a tendency to learn about our natural behaviors and say, I'm not that. I'm not a numbers person. I'm not a details person. You may not be a details person. You probably don't want your lead salesperson to do your taxes. There are things that are more natural when it comes to behavioral fit. However, today, I want you to just be really open. I want you to trust me, if you will, that it's possible. I'll share some things with you that I've learned from others that maybe you haven't been open to in the past, but maybe now's your moment to take your next step of growth. I want to challenge you to jettison whatever internal dialogue you have about who you are and who you aren't. All of us can go back in our history and find times in our lives that we weren't good at things that we're good at now. Solid food, eating solid food, driving. Some of us have not improved in that. But I remember, and I'll just share this and then I'll move forward. I remember I was really good at 4 of the models when I started coaching, because I'd done those. But I wasn't talking to anyone about their money. Now, I am who I am because I have amazing parents. That's the truth. And they told me when I was young, you can do anything you want in this world if you're willing to do the work. And they were right. And I heard my mom say when I was very young, Shreves aren't good at math. That sounds like something she might say along the way, isn't it, Dad? Shreves aren't good at math. She wasn't limiting me. I knew we were good at lots of things. But I heard that as a kid. That'd probably horrify Mom. Don't tell her. I'll deny it publicly. We're not good. I just knew that. I just knew we're not good at math. We're good at lots of other things. And so I just took that with me. I got a leadership scholarship to college because it wasn't going to be academic, because we're not good at math. I went to school where I had two objectives: climb as many rocks as I can and convince any girl that will listen that I'm not 16 years old. The rocks were easier. One day I went to register. I called on the phone. Remember that? That was state of the art. You don't have to go in and call on the phone that's connected to the wall and press the buttons to choose your classes. Remember those days? Wouldn't let me register. I had to go in there like a common peasant. So I walk in there, I'm going into my junior year, I know nothing. And they said, you have to pick a major. Your scholarship won't pay for any more credits until you declare a major. What do you have that doesn't have a lot of math? They gave me 3: social psychology, psychology, and human development. There was a 3-to-1 girl to guy ratio in human development. I need every advantage I can get. It was that. Smart, huh? Smart. I didn't meet Teresa in that program, but literally chose my undergrad based on math. But what was interesting is, so I had that story. We're not good at math. I even said at times we're not good at details. But I started to make that a focus of my coaching. You might even remember this, Josh, because Tony didn't actually go over people's P&Ls either. So I said to everyone, we're going to go over your profit and loss next week. I started with a guy named Kenny Klaus. Anyone know Kenny in Arizona? He's got a great business. I'm looking at his P&L. It looks French to me. I said, just imagine like the old Brady Bunch where he's on one side, I'm on the other. We're both looking at the P&L and I say, that looks like a lot of numbers. What do you see? It's a total dodge. What do you see? It's coaching, right? What do you see? 'Cause I don't know what I'm looking at. And he said, yeah, it's a lot of numbers. And we looked at some things and he said, I don't think our problem is expenses. I think it's revenue. I grabbed that. You have 1 of 2 problems. You either have an expense problem or a revenue problem. So in the next call, what do you see here? I see this. Is it an expense problem or a revenue problem? By the time I got back to Kenny, it's like I had a master's degree in P&Ls. I made it a focus. I started to build these forecasting tools. I'm going to share one with you later to help forecast the future of the business. But I wasn't good at math. Well, that's gone forever for me. I'm really good at math, and I've written some pretty advanced calculations as I've studied and forecasted business. So there's things we tell ourselves that I'm telling you right now, they're not necessarily true. They're probably not true. But we make them true by just believing them. I can't do that. I can't lead another. I can't do this part of the business. I'm not good at cold calling. I can't. Whatever it is, today, just suspend it. If we left now, if we ended now and you just took that in your business, you'd be better off for it. Don't leave. We're not ending it right now. Okay, success is an orchestrated event, and I suggest that you cheat. Oh, by the way, we have 2 podcasts. Choose Difficult. That's a passion project. And then this one we do for KW Maps. It's called the Coaching Lifeline. We interview agents that are doing really awesome stuff. We tell their story. Then we bring their coach on to explain what they did to work together to get there. It's a great one, especially if you're leading others. Okay, so who knows that dude right there? Big T, short for Thurl Bailey. Thurl spent 9 years in a Jazz uniform. He was an NBA All-Star. And he was the second person on my podcast. The first was a guy named Bob Taylor, Taylor Guitars, the greatest guitars in the history of human existence, non-debatable. Thurl was the next one, and it was amazing to talk to Thurl Bailey. I knew him as one of the great stars of the Utah Jazz, but most people know him because he was, there are 2 miracle teams in basketball that stand above all the others. Of course, there's the Dream Team of '92. And does anyone know the other one? NC State. That's where Thurl Bailey went to school. So he told me that when he was in high school, his coach, he tried out for the team. He was really tall, super lerpy, profoundly uncoordinated. His coach said to him, he got cut freshman year, got cut sophomore year, and the coach disinvited him from trying out the following year. And I said, how'd you feel about that? And he said, fine, I was no good. Wasn't any good. You hear that Michael Jordan speech at his Hall of Fame ceremony when he's still giving it to the coach that cut him? Thurl was like, I just wasn't good. I wasn't good enough. But he decided he wasn't he wasn't going to play basketball, but a new coach came in and he thought he'd give it one more try. And the coach pulled him aside after tryout and said, you might become a really great basketball player, but it's going to take a lot of work. But I see something in you. And if you're willing to meet me after school, I'll spend time with you every day after school. Thurl became, under the tutelage of that coach, became one of the top high school recruits in the nation in just 2 years, and went to play for NC State. He went there, had a great freshman year, and then the coach that was there got another opportunity and moved on. Thurl told me that he called his mother and said, I'm leaving, because he had gone there to play for that coach. I'm leaving. And that beautiful woman said, well, you may be going somewhere, but you're not coming here. Isn't that awesome? You've been given all these chances. You're not going to give this new coach a chance. You could just see all 6'9" of Thurl like, okay, mom. It's real deep voice. Okay, mom. New coach's name was Jimmy Valvano. The first thing he did when he came in is he had a completely different energy than everyone else. And Thurl told me the most amazing thing. He said they practiced winning the national championship. I was really interested in that. What was that like? He said it was the worst thing ever. You know, in Bold, you know the money activity, the money magnet thing? I feel like my skin's being pulled from my body anytime I'm involved in that. It's just so awkward. This was like that. If you love it, I'm sorry. But he said they had to run around and cheer. They had to climb up on the rim. They had to cut the net down. He said we went through a new net every day for a month. We practiced winning the national championship. And then they just got started. They had an okay season. But they made it into the tournament barely. When they got into the tournament, they played, I'm gonna see if I can get this all right. They beat, all right, I got it. They beat Utah. They trounced us. It's not even close. And then they beat a North Carolina team with a guy named Michael Jordan on that team. That earned them the right to play Virginia Tech, I think, with a god among mortals named Ralph Sampson, who's one of the most dominant players to ever play the game. They won there. And they played in the final what was considered the unbeatable team, Houston, with, they call them the Phi Slamma Jamma. Remember that, Dad? Phi Slamma Jamma. They had Clyde Drexler and Akeem Olajuwon. If anyone knows anything about basketball, those are two of the greatest. And they were like the Isle of Misfit Toys. They were great players, but there wasn't one standout star. They all did their work. He said they walked into that final game, into that stadium. It was like a Hoosiers moment. And no one in the world believed they deserved to be there except for them. And I asked him, what changed for you? Because he's playing against like people that he's watched, right? What changed for you? We had practiced winning. We had practiced that. We had practiced being here. And all those goofy moments about running around and cutting the net down and behaving like we were there suddenly didn't seem so weird. What we do when no one's watching determines what we get to do when others are. Let me say it again. What we do when no one's watching will determine what we get to do when others are. And when no one was watching, they practiced winning the national championship. And so when everybody was watching, they knew they could do it. It was an amazing inning. Does anyone happen to know how that game ended? What? And what about Lorenzo Charles? Yep, there was a last minute 3-point shot. It fell like 2 feet shy of the hoop. And what's his name? Lorenzo Charles grabs it out of the air, alley-oop dunk, they win by 1. That's a Cinderella story if there ever was one. There they are. All right, so this idea of, this principle of you're gonna booby trapping success. And I use the wordplay a little bit, cheat. It's an orchestrated event, I suggest you cheat. We gotta practice winning. Let me just share another story with you. I'm doing this in 3 parts. I don't think I told you this. I'm gonna share these truths, then we're gonna dive into business. That's part 2. We're gonna get right deep into the business. So This was taken in, nope, Siri. This was taken in May of 2018. And I'm in Yosemite Valley, California. Has anyone been to Yosemite? Let me see your hands if you've been to Yosemite. Those that haven't, put that on the list. That's a place to go. In Yosemite is a cliff called El Capitan, and it's the largest unbroken cliff on the North American continent. It's 3 times the height of the Empire State Building, continuous vertical, and it's beautiful. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside when I think about Deer El Cap. You see, when I was 23 years old, my friends took me rock climbing in Ogden Canyon. It was December. We had to clean snow out of the holes. My hands froze. You know that thaw-out thing that happens that hurts so bad? But I got addicted, and that's been a 30-year obsession. And so I would start training for this rock in El Cap. The reason that I like to share this photo is, what you may or may not be able to tell is, I'm horrified. It's the morning of, we're about to make the 6-minute walk from the valley floor to the base of El Cap, and then we're gonna climb this thing. 1 month earlier, I was climbing this for the 5th time with a dear friend of mine. His name's Hans Florine. He holds all the records on El Cap. He held the speed record, the ascent record. We were on it together, and about 2,200 feet up the wall, he fell and broke both his legs. And it was this whole thing. And I'm back 1 month later because I knew if I don't do this now, I'll never do it again. And it was still important to me. So I went back. Now, to do what I do creates a dilemma for me. Because do you remember when I showed you my family and said, I don't like to be away from them? Do you remember that when I said that? People that do what I do leave every weekend. And they go places and climb. It's just what they do. You see this with hunters and quilters. They're just crazy. I don't know about quilters, but this kind of a passion will take you away. And when I say I don't like to be away from them, I don't do well away from them. I get mopey. It's embarrassing. You have to look away. I really don't like to be away. I don't want to be an absent dad and husband. And so I had to create an environment. I had to cheat. So in my oh, this is El Cap. Has anyone seen Free Solo, the Netflix special? I know Alex. They were shooting, a friend of mine was up and they were filming for that, and he took a bunch of these pictures of us. This is later that day. I was so nervous because I led almost the entire thing. Let it up. Okay, here's just another picture. You can kind of get a sense of what it's like to be up there. So what do you do? How do you train for that and run a big business and grow a big business and be a present husband and father? Now, some would say you just have to choose. And I don't know that they're wrong in every case. Sometimes we have to choose. There are seasons for things, right? But when I came out of college, there were a whole group of us that had traveled all over the world climbing together, literally all over the world. And I'm the only one that still does it. And they said, oh, man, I used to do that. But then kids, I think that's shameful. Kids make it more difficult for sure to do it the way we did it. But don't blame your kids on your lack of organization to do something else. You can just say, I lost the desire to do it, or I don't want to do it anymore. We're doing other things. There's no shame in that, right? But we have a tendency to need a reason to blame. So for me, I don't want to be away from them. I'm training like this. Most parties will take 3 to 5 days, and I've only ever climbed this in a day. In fact, on this day, we did it in about 8 hours and 15 minutes. And so this is in my office. Does anyone know what that thing is that I'm on? What is it? It's a tread wall. It does just what it sounds like. It's horrible. It's so bad. But I created a program. I also built this little simulator that simulated, so my ceiling in my office at the time was 12 feet. That's as high as I could climb. And I built a wall that simulated putting your hands in cracks, and I could change the width of it. And 3 days a week, I would climb 3,300 feet between these two things. Just awful. Lots of good books. But that's what it takes. Because my option is either don't do it or leave my family and do it indefinitely. And I believe our kids will learn what they can do by watching what we do. Isn't that true? In fact, right now, you're modeling for people around you how to run a business. Are you pleased with what they're learning? I'm not trying to create a fire so we can put it out. If they were running their businesses later down the road exactly the way you are today, are you happy with that? Or is there something else you'd want to adjust or model for them to help them learn a little bit differently? So I had to build inside my office a complete simulator and repetitious boredom, right? That's where mastery is found. One more thing. On this topic, this idea of repetitious boredom, that's what lead generation is in the morning. It's just repetitious boredom. It's doing the same thing, it's saying the same thing, it's showing up at the same time. It's doing something you don't want to do until you get the spirit of it. You know what I learned about these big teams? We have a tendency to start to grow the team, and then we graduate out of calls. I don't do calls anymore, Josh. I got a team. My team does it. But you know what you do in a shift? You go straight to the front line of your business and you lead from the front. Adults learn by seeing it done 7 times. And the great leaders are the ones that will assemble their people, and everyone will participate in hunting for what we're going to kill and eat today. There's something really amazing about that. Again, I'm going to lay out a bunch of strategies for you on that lead gen topic later. That's number 1. Let's go to number 2. I'm going to make sure you guys get your break. And we're going to do a break in like 15 minutes. You guys good? Anyone going to pee their pants right now? You are? I won't be offended if you need to turn to your friend. No, I'm kidding. If you have to go, it's no worries. So truth number 2. Seriously, if anyone needs to go, I won't be upset. So truth number 2, the world will move under your feet, and that just means it's your move. I told you about my friend Hans. That's him right there, Hans Florine. When I first decided I wanted to climb El Cap, I knew I wanted to have a coach. I've learned that in my life. I don't undertake any big initiative without a guide and someone that's done it. And I thought, if I'm gonna do it, why don't I just ask the very best in the world first? The first time he and I climbed it was like his 168th time up that one route. And so we were Facebook friends by some coincidence, and I had posted a business video, and I sent him a message and said, hey, this is who I am, and this is what I want to do. Would you consider getting on a phone call with me? I have some questions that I think you could help me with. He went to my Facebook page and watched that business video. Now, one thing to know about professional outdoor athletes, they get paid in t-shirts and Cliff Bars. And they're all entrepreneurial. And sometimes that turns good, like in the case of Patagonia. That's a great example of someone who started as a dirtbag rock climber in Yosemite and built a billion-dollar company. Most of the times it doesn't go that way. So Hans was working on some different business things, saw my video, said, yeah, let's get on a call. I was starstruck. We talked for about an hour and a half. He agreed to be my coach. I explained to him what coaching was to me. He said, why don't we trade? And I told him, no, we can't do that. I have to pay you, and we can't be friends for 6 months. And why? Why am I doing that? If friends will let you off the hook, you know who's worse than friends? We are. I'll let myself off the hook at the sign of discomfort. You know, friends might be tough for a minute, but they'll yield because they don't want it back at them. If I start to coach Hans, and if for any reason he admires me from what I'm helping him with in business, he'll fall off the pedestal. And I am nowhere near prepared to do what I need to do. I need him to be Hans freaking Florine, a climbing god that I just respect so much I don't want to let him down. So about 4 months into coaching, he said, can we be friends yet? Yes, we can be friends now. And it's been really amazing. So we're up there. We always start with the time. That's a Hans thing. He logs everything. We were trading leads about every 600 feet. One of us would trade. And we have this technique, it's called short fixing, which is when you get to an anchor point. And for those that don't know, there are about every 100 to 130 feet, there are anchors that are drilled and installed in the wall that you can clip yourself into and bring your climbing partner up. And then you've got all your gear and the rope and everything is up where you are, and then you go on. And we use a technique that's a self-belay technique called short fixing, so that when I get up to an anchor, Hans still needs to clean out everything, but I pull up all the rope and I tie the rope into the anchor. And then I use the technique to belay myself and I keep climbing. It's slow, but it's amazing how much it speeds up the overall day. I carry a little tagline with me, just a little thin little rope. And when he gets there, he ties the extra gear that he collected and I haul it up and then he puts me on belay and there I go. And we were switching about every 600 feet. Okay, so let's see. I got these maybe a little out of order. We're climbing an area called the Great Roof. Does anyone want to guess why they call it that? It's a great big roof. That, I was cleaning out the Great Roof. I couldn't see him. I didn't have line of sight. The middle arrow, that's me. There was a guy in the valley with the telephoto lens. That's me. The bottom arrow is Hans. The top arrow is called the triangle ledge. We have flown past that countless times, but this time Hans fell about 20 feet above that. And he hit that ledge and shattered his legs. His left ankle was completely shattered and his right heel was completely shattered. And that's actually worse than the ankle. I heard the fall, but I couldn't see him. I heard it because our anchor was horizontal for me because I'm cleaning out that roof. And I heard him shock load the anchor. I want to get this right. He didn't fall 20 feet. He fell 10 feet, hit it, and then went over. So I'm yelling to him, "Are you okay? Hans, Hans." I can't hear anything because the wind's blowing. It gets windy up there. So I lower myself out so I can see him. I just left a piece of gear. I only had one left. I just lowered myself out so I had line of sight. Hans and I think it was about 90 seconds from the moment he fell to the moment I had line of sight of him. And here's what I saw. He was sitting on the ledge and he yelled to me. He's on the phone and he yells, "Hey, I fell. I'm sure I broke my left leg, probably my right leg. I'm 100% above the knees. I'm on with search and rescue. Give me a minute." Isn't that weird? "Hey, I'm talking to my cousin. Let me just finish this up. I'll be right with you." And I was freaked out because he's the best in the world. And just to give you a little scale, that's the Great Roof. Isn't that rock beautiful? Anyone else get warm and fuzzy when they look at that? So I lower him down to me. And here's what's happened, by the way. He has climbed up onto that triangle ledge. It's about the size of the seat that you're sitting on with those broken legs. He's a world-class athlete who won the World Cup in climbing, which is now an Olympic sport. He's done everything, but he's up there. Instantly, I observed in Hans, there was no focus on what I can't do anymore. Instantly, it was what can I do? I lowered him to me, and then I talked to search and rescue, and I was pretty freaked out. This picture here has a funny story to it because we just had one little puffy jacket, and that shell I'm wearing is literally nylon. That's it. We weren't going to be up there overnight. That's poor planning, I guess, for this day. It's the risk you're on. And Hans is sitting there, and he won't even let me give him an Advil. It's a stubborn little fart. I'm trying to help him out. So he's going into shock. Have you ever seen that before? That's scary, isn't it? And what happens is that you just, all your muscles clench. I would look down and just see him just like, ugh, like this, and I would hit him on the chest. "Hans, look at me." I'd pop him on the chest, and he'd look up. And this starts to happen, and I hit him on the chest. "Look at me, Hans." And he looks up and he goes, "We should make an Instagram video." I didn't want anything to do with it. I wanted nothing to do. I'm like, whatever you need to do. Because my job has changed now. I'm playing a different role. Now, what I describe as the characteristic that has taught me so many things, and what I want you to learn here is, I'm calling it actionable optimism. Optimism without action is just, maybe you're just a little happier in the failures. That sounds too rough. Optimism without action it doesn't get things done. And in this case, it was all actionable. There was a moment, so search and rescue, they do this thing where they come with a helicopter, they call it a pickoff. They put a rescuer down on a line and they kind of like swing them into the wall. And then these are the best in the world, by the way. Yosemite Search and Rescue is the best in the world. They hook you up and fly you off, but the wind is blowing too hard and they can't risk the helicopter. So they fly 12 rescuers to the top. There's a gentleman in our company I was coaching at the time named Dan Harker. Does anybody know Dan Harker? Mary Harker, you ever heard of Mary Harker? If you've read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, you've heard of Mary Harker. Dan, her son, had come to the valley to watch us, and he took this picture. It's my favorite picture, actually, of search and rescue. Hans posted that video to Instagram, and because of who he is, it instantly went viral. And all of a sudden, everyone started calling, and they found me, and they started calling me. So we had all the sports outlets that you might think would call, Outdoor Magazine, Climbing Magazine, Rock and Ice Magazine. They were all calling. But so did the Boston Globe, of all people. Every local TV station in Los Angeles. El Cap is that kind of a spectacle. And me, I didn't want anything to do with this. I called my wife and I said, hey, here's what's happened. I'm fine. Don't go on the internet. Why are you laughing? She went right on the internet. Are you okay? I'm okay. I'm fine. And so I kind of take over this rescue. I don't think I have it here, but Hans took this picture of me. I didn't know it until it was all done. But I'm looking up, I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna lower him. And our lines are blowing horizontal. The wind is blowing so hard. In the video, it's like a minute and a half, and he's like, hey, Instagram, hey, Instagram, there's a rescue on El Cap, and guess what, it's me. And then he shows his legs, and his left leg is like, oh, weird. And then he's sensitive, so he's like, I don't wanna gross you out. And then he's like, here's my friend Abe. Hey, what's up? And so search and rescue said, we want you just to stay put. We're not gonna be there for probably 8 hours. I made the executive decision, I'm gonna lower us to a place called the Gray Bands. It's where there was a potential spot that he could sit. And I remember he said, they want us to stay here. And I said, I wanna take us where you can actually sit. He said, okay. You learn a lot about people in the extreme. And it's, when you're a leader, sometimes it's hard to follow. And he wasn't that at all. He was a perfect partner in this moment. So I went through the process of lowering him down to that spot. There was a Japanese team that came up, and there was a 100% language barrier. They couldn't understand us. And so I'm like pointing and saying it louder as if this is gonna help translate my words. And he's hurt. The best way I can describe that team is complete compassion. I remember specifically the lead climber's face looked compassionate. They could just see. And Hans had that hood on and his glasses, and he's a national hero in Japan because he first, for 7.5 years, he held the speed climbing record on El Cap with a Japanese climber named Yuji Hirayama. And so they know him, but they couldn't see him. In fact, it wasn't until like 2 hours later that I was like, do you know who this is? And took the glass, oh, Hans, Hans. They got excited. That was a terrible impression, forgive me. While we're waiting for search and rescue, there's this moment where it's kind of the first quiet moment, and I feel him pull on my jacket. By the way, this is prior to the Japanese team coming up, I'm starting to shiver. Now, what's the problem with that? Yeah. You lose your body temperature. You know, it doesn't go well. I'm gonna be fine, but this is gonna be terrible. And he pulls on my jacket and I look down, I said, yeah? And he goes, I just realized I'm gonna read a lot of books this summer. That's how he was thinking. I just realized I'm gonna read a lot of books. I have another friend that does a lot of work for National Geographic, and he sent me this photo 2 weeks later. Hans has had his first surgery. He still has that exoskeleton thing on his leg, and he's in the gym doing that. Hans' claim to fame isn't how many times he's climbed El Cap, it's how many different people he's done it with, and it's over 100. We were in the hospital, so what happened was they took him to the top, and then they flew him the next morning. They flew him to the valley and then took him to Fresno. There's a level 1 trauma center. But they called me that night when they were coming to get him, and they said, we can come and get Hans and take him to the top today, but we can't take you. So here's what we think the options are. We understand there's another team you could climb out with. And I was like, next? What's the next option? Now, these guys were really nice. And if they had left all their stuff and let me lead, we'd be off in 5 hours. But that wasn't going to happen. And I said, what's the other option? We come get you in the morning. I don't want that. I'm not injured. There's a third option. Does anyone want to guess what it is? I wasn't going to climb myself. That was gone. But I can rappel down. There's some challenges to this. It was now getting nighttime. I am rappelling to silver anchors on white granite in a moonless night in Yosemite. And I'm a little shaken. And our rope has 2 different diameters, because remember, one was just a little tagline to pull gear up. I had to really focus. I really had to concentrate. I lowered about halfway down and slept on a ledge. It's a big ledge as far as these routes go. And in the middle of the night, another team came up. And they didn't see me at first. Have you seen those portaledges? It's like a cot that you clip to the wall and you sleep on. We don't use those because we climb it in a day, but I've used those many times in Zion doing other routes and in Yosemite doing other routes. And they had never put that thing together before they got up on the wall. Note to self, you should know how to drive the car before you go on the freeway. And so I heard them over there messing with that thing, and they were getting mad at each other. And I remember I was comforted by the proximity of human voices doing something pretty routine. To me, it felt mundane. Finally, I said, do you guys need some help? Scared him to death. Take it easy. Do you need some help? I had him tucked in like 15 minutes. I had the same portaledge. I got to the bottom, collected my stuff. There was a guy walking around the base. I said to him, he said to me, I actually said to him, hey, you may not want to do this. He's right at the base. Rocks come, people drop stuff, and he's just like, it's so neat. I'm like, it could be neat from down there. And he said, there was a rescue. And I said, that was us. He said, my son's up there. And I said, yeah, where's he at? And he said, last night he slept on Dolt Tower, which is where I was. I said, I met him. I helped him out with his ledge. And he had called his dad and told him about me. And he said, you're the guy. Can I help you carry your stuff? Yep. I've learned that in the darkest of times, people show up and want to help. And one of the best things we can do is accept it, is accept the help. We got down to the base, and his name is Barney Mann. He's written a book on the Pacific Crest Trail. And he told me he's Jewish. I told him I'm one of those weird Mormons from Utah. He said his law partner was Mormon and that he agrees we're weird. I was in the car and I was just collecting myself. I had to take stuff back to search and rescue. And I just took a minute and there was a knock at my window and it was him again. So I rolled my window down. Can I pray for you? And I have a standing policy. I will take whatever prayer from whatever faith 100% of the time, unless it's Satan. Probably not that. But outside of that, yes. And he gave this beautiful prayer. In this time, I'm feeling a lot of things. I'm worried about my friend. I'm feeling beat up. I'm supposed to be home. I'm supposed to board a plane in like 4 hours because my wife, who's a performer, has flown off to sing somewhere, and I'm supposed to go to my daughter's recital. And I'm not going to make it. I don't know how to tell her. Like, all of this is colliding. Can I pray for you? Yeah. I didn't understand it was in Hebrew, but I felt it. I felt the kindness of a stranger. I drove to Fresno and met Hans there, and they had to check him in under a pseudonym. He loved this, by the way. It was the greatest thing ever to happen to him. They let me in, though, because he put me on the list. He didn't have anyone. He was going through a bad divorce at the time, and it was me. I remember when I was driving there, it was just, I was kind of settling in on what had happened, and I got a call from my daughter and my wife, and it was the first moment they realized I wasn't going to make it. My wife was a mom in the moment. Do you know what I'm talking about? Mom, like, you need to get home. Get home. You know, does anyone identify with what I've got going here? But I wasn't in a place to receive that. So I just wasn't very receptive. And then the next call was sweet Aaliyah. I'm going to try and do this and not get messy. Daddy, Mom said, your friend is hurt. You can come to my next dance recital. It's okay. Just, I just fell right apart. We're in the hospital. Remember action-oriented optimistic Hans? Remember that guy? He comes out of surgery, and I'm there when he comes out, and he says, how do I call the nurse? I think you press that button. So he presses the button, and here comes the nurse. And he said, and I'll never forget it, I have 4 questions for you. Remember the 100% above the knees? It's just how this dude thinks. I have 4 questions for you. The first was, what do I do that makes me the best partner to you as we do this together? He just woke up out of surgery. This guy's whole life is climbing. He may never do this again at the level he's done it, but he isn't thinking about that. A news team snuck their way in. They literally snuck their way in. I don't know how it happened, but they're in the room and they interviewed him. They had to ditch it because of HIPAA. There was someone else in the room, and they did it a second time, which was even better for him. He loved that all the more. But I remember she asked him, will you ever climb again? And he said, twice. I have taken a 100% blind climber to the top. His name's Eric Weimer. He's done the 7 summits. Twice I've done that. Once I've taken a friend of mine who's completely paralyzed below the waist from the effects of polio as a child. What do I say to my friends? I hurt my legs. I can't do this anymore. That's baller, isn't it? I drove him home, and I remember at one point, he asked, will you call my daughter? He's laying in the back. We broke him out. Literally, we broke him out. They said, you got to be here this long. You need a wheelchair. You have to be able to demonstrate that you can take care of yourself. We Facebooked the local climbing community. Someone helped us with a wheelchair. It didn't have the feet things. So if you watch the video that I took when he's holding it up with his core, they don't know. There's not supports under his legs. Both of them have just been operated on, and he's holding him up, and he convinced them so much they discharged him. And so we broke him out of the hospital, and we're driving him home. He says, will you call my daughter? And I call him, hey, your dad wants to talk to you. And that was the first moment in this whole ordeal that I heard him just kind of face the reality of what had happened and let it go, just let it down. He apologized to me later. I'm like, you don't owe me an apology. Now there's a reason I'm sharing this. And there's a reason I share this right before we go into the analytical walk of business that we're about to take. We're headed into some difficult times. As a coach with lots of experience, I've learned that behind the curtain, everybody struggles with something. That's true. You might have things in your life today that you're struggling with. And I want you to think about the truths and the things that we've talked about right now and make some notes for yourself, because it's these things that get us through the difficult moments. And on the other side of what is hard for us today lies what we want. It's not going to be easy, and we're going to have to dig in. I'm telling you before God and all the angels, the biggest opportunities ever realized in the business of real estate will happen over the next 12 months. They will happen. This is the time we take territory. We're going to have to do it differently, maybe, than we've been doing it. Might have to get a little more disciplined, maybe, than how we've been. We might have to do some things that previously we haven't wanted to do. But we can do those things if we have clarity, if we have the right support around us, and if we know what they'll do with us. All right, with that, let's do this. It is right now 20 after. I need to know in advance. I'm going to use a spreadsheet. Are you guys going to die if I use a spreadsheet? You'll make it. It's an easy one. It's okay. I'll walk you through. We'll do it together. You're going to love the spreadsheet. We're going to be back at 35 after. Don't be the person that's back at 55 after. Go make the calls, close the deals, get up, move around, take the break. I'll see you in 15 minutes. I'm told that it has been hard to hear. Is it hard to hear? So I'm going to try some different things. How's this? Oh my gosh, I'm going to clip it to my lip. I don't know how to do this. Just hold it like this, I guess. Nah, I'll hold it here. Like this? All right, come on in. Did you guys do a bunch of deals in that break? Did you guys make a ton of money? Who made money? Come on, who made money? Someone made money. No one made money? We're changing everything. We're going to talk about making money now. Okay, is this better? Is this better, Aaron? This is going to be the death of me holding this in front of my face like this, but I'll do it for you guys. Okay. I want to get a sense of who's in this room, and so we'll just do like raise of hands as we do this. I could clip this to my nose. It's not mine, but that's probably okay. You were a medic, is that too unsanitary? Just stick it up there, and then I don't have to hold it. Has anyone ever lost their AirPods and then they have to hold their phone? It feels so 1987, doesn't it? Okay. So who here is, I want to find the right way to ask this. Who here is, who's been in the business less than 1 year? Just raise your hand. Just let me see your hands. Raise them high. Look around. Okay. Who's been in the business between 1 year and 5 years? Let me see the hands. Okay. Who's been in the business longer than 5 years? These are the wily veterans. You can only raise your hand once. Who here, changing this a bit, who here has a team or is on a team? See my teams. Okay. Who here is an independent agent, sole practitioner? Okay. It gives me some sense. Who here is doing more business than they want to do? They hate it and they're sick of it. Every now and then I get one. I'm drowning in this stuff. It's what's interesting about entrepreneurialism, and I think real estate specifically, is that I don't know what it is about the real estate world where we've become the bastion of coaching and training. But when I left the warm waters of the real estate world and went out into the cold, lone, and dreary world of business, which is how it felt, people out there don't talk the same as we do. We took the Millionaire Real Estate Agent and we changed the models so they were just slightly more palatable. I learned that if I stood in a room of people I didn't know and said, we're going to do your economic model, in the distance could be heard the barking of a single dog, and I'd see their eyes glaze over. But for us, thanks to the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, it means something. And it most simply stated is this: it is taking your end profit goal, the money you want to make in the end, and working it backwards to daily decisions. That's it. That's the purpose of an economic model. Now, I can tell you the strength of your business by understanding the clarity of your plan. There's that quote by Abraham Lincoln. I'm going to butcher it. Maybe someone here knows it. If I had 4 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend 3 hours sharpening, it's more than that, but 3 hours sharpening the axe and 1 hour chopping. Something like that. This idea that we're going to take time to stop and actually plan and work on a plan is really critical. We have 4 models that we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to write them up here, mostly because I enjoy the smell of these markers. So the first, and this is a variation of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. I'm not doing anything that different, but I do want to share with you a different angle to how to look at this stuff. Is that fair? You guys okay with that? Is anyone offended so far? We'll get there. All right. So the first is purpose. This is mission. I'll just kind of do a doodle. I like this. It always makes the day better. Okay, so mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspectives. Mission is why we do it. In the absence of clarity, we trade mission for function. I see this all the time with teams when they get started. They have a lot of passion. They're excited about what they're doing. You should come work with me. We're killing it over here. We come early, we stay late, we work harder. We're changing lives, we're changing the world. It's all big and ambiguous. And it's important to have passion, and it's important also to have grit and to be excited. But in the absence of a mission that people identify with that makes them feel like we are about something important, in the absence of that, people just, you're just doing the work. You're just doing the function. We're just listing homes. We're just selling homes. So it's important that we have a reason that we're doing these things. We're not going to spend a ton of time here, but it is something we do a lot. I will tell you the best resource for this that I've ever heard is season 2 of Think Like a CEO, Gary and Jay's podcast. Hands down, the best summary explanation of why you want mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspectives, and how to use them. If you've never been in a situation where you had to correct someone's behavior and it became personal, if you've never been in that situation, then you just have to know that it's awful. Did you hear that? Was knowing laughter I just heard right there. Who's that? Gordon back there? It's terrible, isn't it? It's like being kicked in the stomach. What were you thinking? I meant the stomach. Just making sure everyone's with me. What we want to be able to do is, as a business, for our customer and for anyone else that may be a part of what we're doing, is we want that thing on the wall that we stand for. This is what we're about. The thing that we can walk over to and say, hey, that thing you just did, where in our values does that fit? This allows us to stand arm in arm with someone, look at something that we believe in and we have common belief in, and make corrections instead of being nose to nose pointing at them. It's a very different way to lead. A lot of companies don't do this in the beginning. And I've actually fallen prey to that. It takes some time. Hey, Dad, you moved down. Looking good. It takes a little time to do it. Most people that don't have this, you know when they decide that they have to have it? Too late's maybe just a touch too far. But it's when things are falling apart. It's when things are falling apart. I always cringe when someone says, our team is like family. We would never do this business without each other. There's a part of me that's like, there's just that gag reflex, because I know that they're just, the hourglass is turned over. It takes more than just we like each other to really build a cohesive, strong, unified group of people that are aligned in reaching big goals. And so it's really all I'm going to say about mission, vision, values, beliefs, perspectives. But maybe you can understand now why ours is so important to us. We create sacred partnerships that require the best in us to bring out the best in them. It leads our trainers, it leads our coaches. We share that with our clients. Today, my sacred partnership was with you. The time I spent prepping was driven by your investment of time, knowing how valuable it is, and that you've trusted me with a little of it. And so you got to have something to push you forward. Let's talk about the millennials. I was just waiting. This has been such an interesting phenomenon, the blaming of the millennials. We always blame the new generation, have you noticed? Which, by the way, it's a victim act in and of itself to point at someone else and name them for the ills. You guys are screwing up everything we screwed up before you got here. What's interesting about the millennial generation is that they are the group leading tech innovation and medical innovation. But we think they're all playing Minecraft in their mother's basement just because the biggest YouTubers are. And so, but what's interesting is all the studies that are done with the millennial generation, there's a bunch of you in here, lead us to the understanding that this group wants to be a part of work that matters and that they understand that what they do actually makes a difference. So if you are a business owner and you want to harness the best attributes of the group leading innovation in the world today, that means you better have a reason that they can align with, a mission, something important, and a clear pathway for them to be able to influence the outcome. This is what is meant when we say talent pushes. It's not that talent jumps on your face and makes things uncomfortable. It's that if you don't grow and innovate ahead of them, they simply leave you. That's painful. All right, enough said about purpose. Okay, the next, I'm gonna do it like this. Uh-oh. I wanna answer that. Okay, the next is plan. My business partner wrote a book called The One Thing. And Jay Papazan is a dear friend, and we own a part of their business, and Jay owns a part of our business. And it's an amazing book. Who's read it? Hands up. Let me see that again. Hands up. The One Thing. Add that to your list. It's really great. But we have this thing, the GPS, right? What is your main goal? What are the priorities that need to be achieved to get that goal? What are the strategies? Well, what's interesting is in coaching a business, you cannot succeed with only a GPS. They really pushed back on me for a while on that. But we need goal versus actual metrics. I need to understand that the calls I make today and the appointments I set make this much money in the end. I think one of the worst feelings in business happens on Monday morning when you're not sure what to do. It's a terrible feeling. And so having a plan that is instructive, that you know what you're going to do and you're going to go and do it, is really important. And I'm going to walk you through one here in just a moment. In plan, that could be a GPS. I still think you need to have one because it's instructive to you and to your organization on how we're going to think about what we're going to build. But you still got to track finances and still got to track appointments and contacts and those lead and lag measures, right? It's a financial plan. Who here loves the finances? It's your favorite part of all the MRA. Raise them high. Weirdos. I do too. I do too. What's your name? Spencer, did you always love that one best? Do you love the lead generation plan just as much? It's because you got to talk to people, huh? I'm just kidding. It's this what I've learned about financials in working with the businesses that we work with and in the coaching, over 11,000 coaching calls. This is where shame lives. That's knowing laughter. This is where shame lives. People feel like they're going to find out I don't know, or I don't know. That's heavy. If we don't know exactly where we are financially, then we walk around with one of two feelings. Either I'm doing better, I think I'm doing better than I am, or I think I'm doing worse than I am, and neither of those are okay. Tactic one in shift is get real and get right. Financials aren't emotional things, but it does help us to understand where we are so that we can influence, we can make different moves for where we want to go. Does that make sense? So we got to have a financial plan, and of course, we got to have a business plan. And to me, the business plan is your economic model. Here's a little side note. There is a book that, in my opinion, is it's the best resource I've ever found for how to build a really complex, simple business plan. It's written by Keith Cunningham. He's the author of another book called The Road Less Stupid, which is one of my faves. But the book is called The Ultimate Blueprint to an Insanely Successful Business. He didn't have anyone consulting him on the title. He should have. The Ultimate Blueprint to an Insanely Successful Business Plan. If you're a student of business, I'd get a hold of that book. It's a small little book. I think he self-published it. It might be published by a bigger publishing house now, but it's really a good one. We got to have a business plan. You're going to grow or you're going to shrink in this business. There's no real cruising altitude. Now, what if you don't want to grow a big team? Is that okay? Who said that? You said that, Josh? I feel like I just discovered that the Easter Bunny's dating the Tooth Fairy. This can't be. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. What's interesting to me about this particular dialogue is the question really isn't, should you build a team or not? The question is, what do you want? And what's the path to it? And there have been many large many owners of large teams that through coaching, we've discovered this is not what you want. Hear me when I say this. Everyone look at me. Collecting the humans doesn't make life easier. Collecting the humans doesn't make life easier. And so it comes down to what do we want? And then we start a journey. Now we're going to grow at some point. We may not build a team, but we will have people that support us and help us. You may not have a fleet of inside sales associates, but maybe you hire that assistant that splits the job with you. And so the next one is people. We took career visioning and we made it agnostic to general business, and we call it leverage leadership. And I had a hard time explaining it to people that didn't know what it was. Who here by show of hands is taking career visioning? Oh my gosh, Gordon, we need career visioning 9 times before the end of the year. Career visioning, it'll help you understand how to hire, but really what it'll teach you to do is understand how to talk to someone else in their language, which is profoundly helpful for your clients and for your personal relationships, for our personal relationships. I want to recommend that you all take that course. It'll be profoundly helpful for you. I had a hard time explaining it. It sounded something like this. What's that? Oh, we have a great method and a behavioral assessment for helping you figure out who you want to hire, and then you can find good. It just was terrible. It just rambled. But I discovered that this is the easiest way to explain it. We have a really great system for attracting, interviewing, and hiring talent, and then training, leading, and advancing them. That's just what it is, right? And so I'm just going to put, we want to win with talented people. As a coach, I never cared. I never cared how known you were, nor did I care how big your business was. What I loved and still love to this day is, are you going to do something cool? And one of my favorite clients I've ever had, none of you would ever know him, but he would just really push himself. And so again, it's not about the size of the team and making sure that you have big people, but you are the gatekeeper for the experience of your clients. Isn't that true? So who that lender is and how they represent you is important. Who shows up in that transaction is important. There is a gentleman about, I don't know, I think it's like 2.5 hours from here, who I call the second most powerful mustache in real estate. Mike Hicks. I don't know who Mike Morgan is, but now I want to know who that is. Mike Hicks is about this tall. You know Mike Hicks? The Promise. Anyone heard of The Promise? Mike Hicks is in the thriving metropolis of Idaho Falls. I was assigned him to be his coach when he very first came to Keller Williams. What I didn't know is that Mark, Mary, and Mo at the time, that were outside of Gary, they were Keller Williams leadership, flew to Idaho Falls to welcome him into the company. He was a top 10 RE/MAX franchise. And they did around 600 transactions that year in Idaho Falls. And 95% of that is repeat referral. That's a powerful mustache. And I remember when we first started, I said, Mike, talk to me about your profitability. What are you making? What's your profitability? What percentage? Because we start there, right? We go into that. I don't talk about money. I only think about people. I've heard that before. Give me a break. The challenge was 600 transactions. I know this guy knows something, right? And he had a very, very small team. His philosophy was, we have to stay small or we won't be able to provide the same service. Anyone ever felt that before? Well, now he's got a whole bunch of businesses. I asked him, what is it about the conversation around profit that makes you think you cannot talk about profit and take care of your people at the same time? That was the question. Never thought of it like that. What we discovered is we have to talk about it, and If we don't, our people don't know if we're winning and they don't know what their opportunity is. Right? So Mike is an interesting case study because he never wanted to grow, and he's not a guy that he didn't want to grow to the extent that he has, but he never wants to leave the real estate transaction. He could 7-level that. I think they're probably going to on track to close 900 this year. There's like 35,000 people in Idaho Falls. His team is the third highest producing brokerage, his real estate team. And he still does a bunch of volume because he wants to. Should you create a team? It's up to you. It's what you want. But I recommend that whatever you do, get clear on the path to it. Make sure that whoever's supporting you in that business understands what you stand for and they're willing to do what you're willing to do. And then you just go for it, right? Here's the last one. Anybody want to guess what the fourth P is? Yeah. I like the bigger markers. That buzz comes fast. I'm sorry, Dad. Profit. So the way to think about profit is everybody in the company should care about it. And if you're a solo practitioner, you should really care about it. Because if $10 comes in the front door, by the time it travels all the way through the company and takes care of all the requirements, payroll, marketing, education, kind of all the things, and comes out the other end as $3 or whatever it is, and we can call it profit, it's how we know we kept our promise to our people, to ourselves, to our families. Are you coming for me? Okay. Gordon will sneak up on you. So that's Ethan, and we love playing guitars and making music. I still coach a gentleman named Cody Gibson. You guys, have you heard of Cody Gibson? And I had him on the podcast and got inspired, and we wrote a song, and we're in the studio right there recording it. And Ethan is exponentially better than me. It's true, right, Aaron? He's so good, little jerk. But he's 16 and he thinks he knows it all. So I did too at 16, and he knows more than I did at 16. We're a big ski family, and I was taking him to school Monday, and we just missed the turn and found ourselves at Snow Basin. I do that because that's what my dad did with me, and I loved it. They're some of my greatest memories. And so we're up at Snow Basin, but on the way, he's, this generation has real challenges because they're being we all are, being algorithmically programmed, and he's got some ideas that I think he'll learn in the future are dumb. But my strategy is not to remove any potential position I have with him by just being combative against the dumb ideas. So if I'm on my game, I'll be more of a coach at times than a dad, though I really struggle not saying, that guy's an idiot. Anyway, it's rough. So I find different ways. So we're driving, and I'll give you the example. I'm going to give you this example of how I helped Ethan understand business on our way to getting into our businesses. We made some notes on the way down. Now that I'm holding this, it's going to be more difficult. But let's just say, is that you or me? It wasn't me. I blame Trump or Biden. Whoever's the sitting president could be at fault. Too soon? We're good? All right. So we're going to say that there's a business, and we're going to call it Emily, right? It's Emily's business. Emily has a business. And Emily provides a software solution for a known demographic, right? Because you can see she is smart. She is way smarter than anyone she's sitting by. No offense, dudes. So it's Eric, right? You look like you could pull a tree out of the ground with your bare hands. Could you do that? Yeah, all right. You're just as smart as she is, but probably not you. No, I'm just kidding. You're smarter. It's like I'm smarter. All right, so Emily has a software. She's got a software. Now, this is what I'm doing with my son. What I recommend you do this with the people that are looking to you. We sometimes think we teach because we know. That's wrong. We teach to learn. What I'm really looking on the way to Snow Basin is to get an inroad with my 16-year-old that he won't close the door on because that's just dad. And he thinks everybody is an idiot on YouTube. Just because they are. They're all playing Minecraft in their mom's basements. So I'm trying to find my way in. So I'm like, buddy, let's just do this for fun. Get out your phone, let's do some calculations. You got a software. And let's just say that you worked hard to build a group of people that follow what you do. You've made content. I said, buddy, you have people that you follow. And we'll just say that you've been able to collect 7,200 people into a database, right? So he's got a database. I'm gonna try and do this up here, but we'll see. And I'm just gonna kind of recreate it. Let's say that you've designed a sales funnel, and there's 3 steps. The first step is that you're gonna send a video to all 7,200. So you're gonna send a vid. And the next step is that you're gonna invite them in the video to a webinar. By the way, I'm making this up right on the spot with him. Is that okay? I just want to crack his brain open. I hope to crack some of your brains open, metaphorically. You could probably do it. I probably couldn't. So metaphorically, send a vid, then you're going to do a webinar, and then in the webinar, you're going to invite them to a one-on-one sales call. One-on-one sales call. There we go. Okay, you with me? So he sends out the video to all 7,200. Now, what he discovers is that 327, now, Emily, do you have a calculator on your phone? Remember when the teacher said, you want to always have a calculator? We were right, she didn't know what she was talking about. So 327, I need you to take 327 and divide it by 7,200. Now, this is what I'm doing with Ethan. 327 divided by 7,200, it's 4.5%, right? All right, 4.5%. That means that you sent your video to 7,200 people and 4.5% of them watched it. You with me? Now, from that, 98% or 98 people requested the webinar. You ready, Emily? You know what we're doing? 98 divided by 327. See, will you tell mom I'm good at math? Just kidding. Let's see. Yeah, it's 30%. You know what that means? I'm asking him, do you know what that means, bud? That means that 30% of all the people that watched your video said, I want to be on that webinar. And that gives you one more chance to show them what you offer in a way that you get them closer to the sales call. Now, I said, let's just say that from that, 58 sign up for your 58 sign up for your one-on-one sales call. I think I maybe missed a calculation here. By the way, I would do this right in front of him. I don't think I got that math right. One of the things we teach in coaching is don't be bulletproof. If you get it wrong, say you got it wrong. If you ask a bad question, say it. It's a bad question, let me do that again. People don't lose respect, they stay with you. So I need you to do a new calculation for me, if you will. I think this is right. So I want you to do, no, I'm right. I'm thinking right, sorry. You're getting my inner dialogue, it's dark in there. 58 divided by 98. 58 divided by 98. 60%. So 60%. This means, buddy, that 60% of the people that went through the webinar signed up for a one-on-one sales call. And from that, 23 bought your service. So you made sales. And buddy, your service is $800 a month. Does anyone here pay that for tech? Is there anyone in here that pays $800 or more a month? Am I really the only one in this room? Oh man, I got to introduce you guys to some cool stuff. Okay, so take 23 and divide it by 58. 40%. We're doing this kind of quick. I'm doing this fast with him. He's like, okay, all right, I get it. Now I said, but this is what it means. Emily, will you times 23 by 800? I said, buddy, that means you made 18,000 what? $400. And he was like, that's awesome. And I said, times that number by 12. 228. That means in the course of a year, bud, you made $220,800. And now I start to blow his ever-loving mind because he's starting to understand that, he's connecting conversion rates to activities. Now, Gary Keller, one of my favorite Gary Keller quotes, and if you're writing stuff down, write this one down. Goals are dictators of actions. Goals are dictators of actions. There are some in this room that are just staring at me, daring them to teach them something. I'm willing to bet that your goals are dictating some actions. Just drop your guard and get clear on what they are and do them. Goals are dictators of actions. So now let's just say, buddy, that you want to add a step to increase your conversion. So actually, we had a client that did a very similar business to this. Since that 7,200 knows you, what if you called and let them know you were sending a video and you wanted them to watch? What if you did that? So we're going to add in a call, right? So I'm just going to build this one over here, and I'm not going to rewrite these steps. I'll just put the number. Is that cool? You guys following? So we're going to add well, maybe I will a little bit. We're going to add a call. So we're going to call 7,200 people. Doesn't that sound terrible? Don't you just think there's 10 communicable diseases you'd rather flirt with than call 7,200 people? Well, let's just see what happens. What we discovered is that calling 7,200 people changed the conversion rate. And instead of, when we told them we're sending you a video and asked them, will you watch it? Instead of only 4% watching it, it went up to 27%. Emily, will you take 7,200 and times it by 27% or 0.27? 1,944. Now we know some things, right? Let's just do our next steps. So number 2, we're going to send vid. And number 3, we got the webinar. And number 4 is the one-on-one call. One-on-one call. And then down on number 5, it's sales. Now we know some data now, don't we? We did this. Now we're just trying to increase conversion. So we know that 30%, the webinar, we know that, let's see, we changed this to 27%. We send the vid. Did I get this right? We make the call. Sorry, this number right here, it's 1944, isn't it? It goes right there. And instead of 4.5%, it jumps to 27%. Here's the difference it makes. Will you times 1944 by 30%? What? Now 583 people are attending the webinar. Remember, we had high conversion on the webinar. So will you now times 583 by 60%? What is it? 350? And will you times 350 by 40%? 140. And will you times 800 by 140? So we move now, I said, buddy, by adding a call first, you're going to move from making 18,400 a month to 112,000. Will you times that by 12? That means in the case, or in a year, in 12 months, if you keep those clients, you go to $1.3 million and change. So what if you don't want to do the calling? Because now that's a big job, right? How many people do you think you could contact in a day? 150? Do you do that now?
Not every day.
That's a lot. Yeah, the bold, you do a bold 100 once out of 6 weeks, right? Who's done the bold 100? Let me see you. Who's prepared to do that every day? Hands up, hands up. You'll do it every day? We'll be reading about you soon. That's awesome. It does get hard, right? I remember when I first had to get scripted, I owned a construction company in 2008. Yeah, yep. You get me. It was the season of long, dark, lonely nights. It was a tough time. And I had to learn, I didn't know how to do the business. Josh was very helpful at that time. I said, I don't do scripts because it doesn't sound like me. I'm not gonna be a robot. Anyone? Anyone? Setter? But what I learned is I had to find a way to do this business, and the way that I was doing it was no longer working. I remember exactly where I was when I got a call, the secondary market is closed. And 19 homes, new construction homes between 350 and 600 that I was the personal guarantor on would not close and never closed. It was awful. It took about 7 years for us to dig out of that hole. It's a whole other story. But it changes what you're willing to do. Now here's what I'm doing with my son. You're gonna do some more math. Let's just say it's the 20 contacts a day, right? 20 contacts a day. So Emily, what I need you to do is divide 7,200 by 20. 360 days doing 20 contacts a day. How could we make it shorter? It's a lot of money. We want to go get it. How could we make it shorter? We could make more calls. We could add someone. So I said, buddy, what if you hired some people to come and do this and paid them really well? What if you paid him like $30 an hour? He works at Rooster's restaurant. He actually does pretty good. They tip well there, but he's like, God, would you do it? Would you call every day for $30 an hour? Yeah, I would. So if you had people like that and their only job was to call, let's say they made 50 contacts in a day. And let's say we hired 5 of them. You like that, Jack Black? 5. So let's say, now we're doing 250 contacts a day, right? We're probably gonna have to call more than that. We know that. We know that we might have to call 40 to actually talk to 20. We're not doing a hard sales call. We're just letting them know we're sending you a video. Will you watch it? You know, that's what we're doing. We're gonna consider it a contact if we completed our dialogue. By the way, Emily, do you know why it's so important to use specific dialogues? Yes, it helps you to not miss. There are some, no one in this room, but others that might just start monologuing and just going off of whatever comes to their mind. I've done that. It's also to preserve our energy, because this part of the business is difficult. And so when we practice and get good at the dialogue, it doesn't require that energy from us, and we can just do it. That's really, really why we learn it. It also helps create a predictable experience for others. So 250 contacts a day. So now I want you to take 7,200 and divide it by 250. $29. Do you know what that is? 29 days. We went from 360 to 29 days. Would you like your million in a year or in a month?
What's that? What's that?
Oh, wait, we have to pay? We have to pay them? Okay, so let's do that. She asked the question, what does it cost you? It's a perfect question. Well, we're paying them really well, right? We're new to this, and so we're paying them more than we should. Because you do one of two things, you either grossly underpay or we overpay. When I say you, I mean we. I've done it too. But let's just say we're paying them 30 bucks an hour. And let's say it's 5 hours a day that they're doing this. And there's 5 of them, right? And so it's 25 hours times 30. times 29.
So 21,750 at 1.344.
Yeah, just for fun, just for fun. Will you take the 21,000 what? And divide it by 1,344,000. Let's just find out what percentage of the revenue we're paying these people to call. 1.5%. Now, I'll tell you a really funny thing about reading financials. If I've done anything, I think, to help the world of coaching in terms of business coaching, I've made this part easier for our coaches. We teach this model called the Big Four: gross revenue, fixed, variable, and then profit. It's the 10,000-foot look at it, but it's amazing. People will get completely high-centered. Stephen Covey would say, we get caught in the thick of thin things. It's amazing how someone will I can't pay him $30 an hour. And we do a calculation like this and say, would you do it if it was only 1.5% of your gross revenue? Yes, I would. Then we would say, don't just hire anyone, go hire the best and pay them like it. See the difference? So let's do one more thing for fun. Now, we're starting to approach Snow Basin, and I can tell that he's seeing the snow. So I'm trying to keep him with me. Ethan, we're not done yet. So let's say that we have to dial double to get the 7,200 invites done. So I went to public school, but if I carry the one, I believe that's 14,400. Is that right? Because our database is 7,200. Now, if I'm losing you in the numbers, just stay with me. It's about to get good. I said, okay, so I want you to divide 1,344,000 by 14,400. $93. Do you know what that is? Who knows what that is? $93 a call, whether they pick it up or not. Now, if you had a business and I met you at your company and you walked in and you made a call and I handed you $93, would you make another call? How often would you do that? I'm calling again. This got really interesting when we asked the question, what would intensify the conversion rate? What if we made a call? So why have I done this with you? I'm not trying to get you to sell software. Maybe maybe the call is. I think in our business, it's really critical. In our business, our customers are being hunted by people with pockets deeper than we'll probably ever have. They know what they're looking at in the middle of the night, and they'll send them advertising related to that. That's why you can look at someone's news feed and know what they've been looking at, right? We have people that know our customer more than we will ever know them. But what that tech cannot do is create a personal relationship. And that's important in our business. So there's some ways that we can take this business back and insulate it from tech. And the way that we lead generate is one of those. I'm going to give you a couple examples. Feel free to steal this. You guys, you're good if I erase this? Nobody wants this, like a photo with this framed and signed? Jerks. I thought it was really good. Okay, so I got a script from Josh. But does anyone here know what the definition of an expert is? You'll live at least 25 miles away. So I'm the expert, and Josh doesn't know anything today. I remember, let me give you a little background as I teach you this specific strategy. Actually, before I do that, I just want to know, what did you learn from that little experience together? What stood out to you? Emily is. He's needing Emily. It wasn't hard math. The value of a phone call. Great.
I think it just goes back to planning and whatever result you
Success is an orchestrated event. It is just conversion rates. And the way that we increase conversion is we get more skilled and we target more appropriately who we're calling.
I'd say the value of a hire as a successful hire.
A successful hire. It's easier said than done. Here's the truth. We're going to ruin some talent on our way to learning how to lead talent. Anyone ever experienced that before? You hired someone who was a little too high octane for where you were as a leader at the time? My first buyer's agent was a gentleman named Craig Goodliff. Yeah, you pointed that right at me, didn't you? He now owns a company called Cyberbacker. We're still really close friends. I was not prepared to lead someone and he just didn't know it yet, so I had him for a while. But it's a learning journey to learn how to lead. I saw some other hands. Yes. I've learned as a coach, no one's ever completely losing and no one's ever completely winning. And it's really important for us, even in a time that we feel like we're getting crushed, to find wins and not just theoretic wins. Find the wins. You guys remember 90 and 90, that program, Craig? Some of you won't know this, but there was a guy named Craig Rieger that years ago put together a program called 90 and 90, 90 listings in 90 days. No one had done it at that time. Now it's too little for some people. But at the time, nobody had done it. It was really remarkable. They did a brilliant job. I first started coaching Kenny Klaus, who I referenced earlier. Kenny's got a team. I think they closed like 7 million GCI last year. It's a big organization. Kenny's 6'2", chiseled like the Greek gods, and cries every time he talks about his team. Big baby. They had just done 90 and 90. I'm on the first call. How'd it go? Complete failure. That's what he says. It's a complete failure. Tell me what you did. We did 78. Okay. Now, is it a failure? It depends on what they were going for. So I said to him, well, one of the challenges you have this week is I want you to come back and tell me what good came of doing this, because it's a hard program. Everybody's involved. This is what he said. You know what we discovered? We did 12 weeks worth of business in 9 weeks. That's insightful. They didn't hit the goal, but they did 12 weeks worth of business in 9 weeks. That's a victory he can take back to his team. So it's important that we find the wins. If I see some other hands, please go there, there. And then I think you were just touching your hair. It's like an auction. Sold. All right, right here.
So you're willing to just add a call to see what results could come of that. So you're playing around with things.
Yeah.
To determine, did it make a difference or not?
We test. If I have a dialogue and I'm not sold on it, you think I'm going to use it on 7,200 people? Not a chance. But I'm going to call enough to figure out what in it works and what doesn't work. This is why, as a leader, it's really important to do this. By the way, you want a little ninja tip for calling for your real estate business? If you're a solo practitioner, get 3 or 4 people and do it together. They're calling on their own business. You're calling on your business. But it's amazing how differently we perform when we have someone watching. It's one of the great ninja tips. Always have someone in the room. It's pure contribution. They're going to get something, but we perform differently. I saw a hand right back there, please. Yes.
My takeaway is you just built a business.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, let's say we're just starting this company and we don't know those numbers. I'm going to do my best to find out. But let's borrow from the financial industry a fancy word. We're going to forecast what we think it is. Forecast. Best guess. Best guess. And then we'll make it true by tracking. Now, when I was doing this with Ethan, there were moments he would get excited. Now, I knew in advance where I was taking him. I was playing him like a fiddle because we're talking about big money, right? But when we talked about calling 7,200 people, his morale went away as fast as yours did. I felt the air go out of this room. I don't want to talk to those humans. But now I get to teach him, what if you found people that like that? And you reward them well for that outcome. What does that do for you? Now, I did talk to him about, you're not just, you're not just making 1.3 million and keeping it, less what you pay the people that call. You have a service you're paying for, you got business expenses. There are things that happen. But then we just started to ask, what if you added on this? What if you added on that? I would challenge all of you in your business journey, in your journey to understand, take the millionaire real estate agent model for the economic model and start messing around with other businesses and put them through the same thing. They won't be a perfect, it won't be a perfect conversion. I've learned that the principles of the millionaire real estate agent are true in every case. The application can vary greatly depending on the industry. Can I show you how we do it with companies that are not real estate? You guys still with me? We need to stand and do a dance number? We do? All right, let's do, what's that? The hokey, no, I am not doing that. But I can tell that I can tell we need a little infusion. So this is what we're gonna do. Don't leave, don't leave. Some of you were like, it's like a dog that just saw a cat. No, just stay where you are. I want you to come out of this with commitments for what you're gonna go and do. And so we're gonna take a moment here. I actually recommend that you get up and you go and talk to someone that's not next to you. But I'll leave that up to you. We're gonna go for maybe 10 minutes. And let me set this up properly. What I want you to do is one of you will be coach and the other will be coachee. When you're the coach, your job is to ask questions. And let me help you, since I'm gonna make you all honorary coaches. Sometimes in coaching, we think it's all self-discovery, it's all questions, but has anyone here ever found themselves feeling interrogated by someone? If you did know, what would it be? And what about then? And what about this? And what? That's not coaching. Coaching is asking questions that open the mind and bring clarity. And so I want you to share with each other where in your business you want to improve and how are you going to focus on it? Where in your business do you want to improve and how are you going to focus on it? Does it make, I'll write it up there. Are you clear on what I'm asking? You're going to go 5 minutes being the coach, 5 minutes being the coachee. When we're done, you will have one person in this room that has heard you say the area that's a challenge for you and what you're going to do to start focusing on it. And you will have heard from someone where their challenge is and what they're going to do. Now, tell me why I would do this besides getting you up and moving around. It's a real thing. Got to get some blood in these legs, right? But why else would I have you do that? It's even a step further than manifesting. Take that a step further. I like where you're headed. Be committed. Part of the manifestation part is we're going to define it, right? We're going to define it and be committed. And someone else is going to hold us to it. You really want to take this to the next level, make commitments to each other, and follow up with one another. I saw a hand back there. Yes. You've heard too much of me, I think, right? Does this all feel familiar? Is that bad? She's in our Millionaire Business Network. So say what you said again, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's it. You're going to learn more. Does anyone have questions on what I'm asking? Some of you are horrified by this. This will be good. No lives will be lost if we do this right. Gordon, do we have music on my computer? On Logan's computer? Logan? Everybody dancing. I don't know where to find it. Spotify, I think you're probably a Spotify dude, aren't you? Christmas hits? I just lost half of you just then. Timeless love songs. So you guys, I want you to meet Logan. Logan has just joined me. He does, he's going to do the podcast with me. We build a ton of digital content, a ton. We have a full film studio and he's come aboard to help take us to the next level. I met Logan because he and his wife were the photographer and videographer for Maddie's wedding. And he blew my ever-loving mind in what they did. I've been so impressed. So I stole him from his wife. I hope she's not bitter. All right, let's do 2010 throwbacks. I think there's probably something good in there. Now, we're gonna go 10 minutes. I'm gonna keep track. What's the challenge you wanna focus on? And what are you gonna do specifically to focus on it? Any questions? Get up, you can't do this sitting. If you're sitting, you're cheating. Stand up and do it. Don't leave. All right. Johnny, you're not leaving, are you? No pressure, we're all just looking at you now. Okay. Did you learn some things about each other? Who made commitments? What did you commit to? Okay, so you're gonna record how much you made per call and record, yeah, and track that. Excellent. Who else? I saw some other hands. Let's go right there and then right over there. Oh, snap, look alive. Excellent. You're like, I am so into this and so are they. They don't know yet, but they're doing it. I'm coming right over. Actually, let me go here and then I'm coming back over to you. Sorry. Let's go. Oh. Yeah. No one's more in it than you. That makes you very dangerous, by the way. New agents that just come in and like, you just tell me and I'll do it. That's a powerful place to be if you follow models and actually do it. I'm excited to hear about that. Great. I might suggest a standing desk for you. You know what that does is it demystifies the program. We do the same thing with financials. I'll have people read their P&L every day out loud, left to right, for 2 weeks. I've done that for some as a condition of whether or not I'll take them on as a coaching client. And what happens is, in the course of doing that, this kind of the mystery of it goes away and you just start to see stuff. It's just words and numbers. And it's the same thing in a CRM. They can be so overwhelming. There's 3,000 things it does and 2 that you need and 1 you want and it doesn't do it. But when you go in every day and you just start looking at the functions, the other thing that's good about that for anyone that has employees is this is an area, tech is an area where you get held hostage by the one person in the company that knows it and no one else. And you don't want that. So go in and start getting familiar. That's a great one. Thank you. Let's get just a couple more. We'll go here and then over there. Jacob.
That's going to allow him to buy multifamily and scale to the point where he can capacity for the next 3 to 5 years.
Nice.
Which should then allow him to build a business, grow, support other people along the way.
It is. Thank you. Yeah, that's worth. I saw one over here.
Going back to the basics, looking at every single step, making sure you're doing everything correctly.
Yeah. Simple, not easy. She said, going back to the basics, you know what the one biggest problem is with the basics? We call them basic. You don't go, we treat them like they're easy and we should just go do those. It's not easy training when you go in the military. It's basic training. They're fundamental and foundational truths, and we can get away from them. Isn't it true? When it comes to lead generation, since this is such an important part of this business, I want you to think about it this way. You own 2 stores, 2. One opens at 8 and it closes at noon. Don't come knock on the window if you need what I'm selling in the afternoon. That store's not even open. Don't come and like point at the handle and be like, hey, can you open, let me in? Not open. The first store is the lead generation store, and you treat it like that's the only business that you're in. And then you do everything else after. And that is fundamental and foundational to the core. Let's get, did I see any others? I thought I saw another. Okay, so we're coming up. I got to wrap this up. I got to bring this to a head. There's some things you can do to leverage your lead generation. I recommend having others join you. I remember when I first started calling for sell by owners, I decided they don't have souls. It's a little game I played. I can tell you in a decade of phone prospecting, it was never easy for me. There was never that time where it was just brainless. It's like if you go swim in the mornings, you always know it's gonna be cold for a minute, but you also know you're gonna adjust. And so I would come in to the office early. I would send a photo of the parking lot to Tony, to my coach, because my goal was to be the first one there. And that's a little game I played. I had to dress differently. Part of the story that you don't know is we lost it all. The only thing we didn't lose was our house. So now I'm in lead generating for comfort. I'm lead generating to figure out how we're going to make our mortgage payment. It made me really lethal. It was hard. Josh should have billed me for the hours of counseling that he provided, but it was really hard. A lot of the things I've shared with you, I learned during those really difficult periods. I remember one time a guy came in and said, hey, you seem like you're doing well. Can I watch? And I said, yeah, but you got to dress like me. I wasn't a dress up guy, but I went to Sears and they had this deal where you could buy 2 shirts and the crappiest tie ever made for like 15 bucks. But I knew to do this thing, I had to feel different. And my coach said, that's one way you could feel different. And for the first time in my professional career, I did what she said right there, which was let go of what I thought I knew, because I didn't have any other options. And so I would send the picture. I said, you got to dress like me. He showed up. I gave him the scripts, our dialogues. I guess we have to say dialogues. We got sued, right? Dialogue, gave him the dialogue. And he would, I said, you can sit there, but you can't leave and you can't talk to me. And you can write down questions, and when we're done, I'll answer your questions. That's what I said. So he sat there and watched and wrote questions, and standing 18 inches behind me, because we can no longer afford the big office, is 6'2" Andy. I took on a partner. He played college basketball, didn't know a thing about real estate. But I didn't do this because I thought he'd be the best. I did it because I was stacking the deck in my favor. I knew if he was meeting me there, we'd do it. He didn't know anything either in the business. He was new and just open to what we were doing. So we dressed me in that stupid Sears tie, would show up, start making calls. And I remember that first person, his name is Monty. He sat through the session. When we were done, he asked questions. And I answered his questions. He said, can I come tomorrow? And I had noticed that with him over there, Andy and I were razor sharp. And I'm like, I want this every day. So I said, yeah, but here's what we'll do. Tomorrow, you show up, bring your own list of who you're going to call. The kiss of death for lead gen is list building in lead gen time. Don't do that. That's like shopping when you're hungry. It's a bad idea. Get it all ready the night before. And so I said, bring your stuff. You'll warm up with us, and then you'll lead generate. Any business you get, your own business. By the way, if you are building a team, this is the best way to figure out if someone's the right match. It's an audition. Someone can be a perfect behavioral match and not have the stomach to do the daily actions that are needed. And you'll have people that'll come and observe and say, I have wanted to do this, and I could do this with you guys. I know if you were here doing it, I could come and do it. But you don't have to be in a team. Just pick some people that you believe in, that you like, that are willing to do this with you, and lend each other some energy and support. It's really powerful. There's another way to leverage that I want to share with you. When I talked to Gary in December 21st of last year about the Millionaire Business Network, the idea was simply this. What could we create that would provide the ultimate leverage for database building? Now, there's a lot of ways to build your database, but maybe the most effective way is to have people that have a database that become super fans of yours. And if you can help those people build their database and they view you as the person that helped them build their business and grow, you hold a different place in their mind. Does that make sense? So the Millionaire Business Network was born. The idea is that we partner with select Keller Williams agents to help them build a business network, but it's different than the others that you've seen. You come together once a month. They're 3-hour sessions. Half that time, you guys are going through learning modules together. Now, in this business, some of you are new to Keller Williams, but some of you have been here a long time, and we forget our language and we forget these models. They become common to us. And many of us know them. We could teach them, but we don't do them. Is there anyone here that knows the models but isn't doing them? Do you want to point at each other? It's like parenting. Hypocrisy is one of my most important tools in parenting because I said so and I did that and I know what it is. So the idea behind the Millionaire Business Network was that we're gonna partner with you, we're gonna train you, we're gonna provide all of the content and the training. You literally show up, open up a laptop and hit play, right? Yeah. Anything you want to add? I think I'm screwing this up.
That's what I've loved about it is, to me, like I'm going through and I've seen these things a lot, so I'm just like you're watching everybody's mind blow. You're like, oh yeah, this is really good stuff. It's basic, but it's awesome.
But basic in the sense of foundational. We just did the financial one. We're on our 9th week. We just did the financials, business financials. It's amazing what's coming back to us, right? And so you share referrals, that grows. But if you're looking for leverage and you don't want to have to come up with it and you want to join others on a learning journey, if you're interested, then here's the shameless plug. You can text join MBN to 33777. Now, before you do it, for everyone in there, it's $1,000 a year for the training for the whole year. And then it's $99 a month for the seat. And we limit how many we launch. And this isn't infomercial style. We're only doing this many. Here's why. We limit because we work with you. So when I spoke at Family Reunion, we had over 900 people respond to that and we chose 15. And then just have worked with them. We've launched 37 chapters. But I spoke at Mega Camp, we had like 1,800, but we just chose 22. That was in Seattle. I would love to do something here in Utah. We typically fly out, but we could do this here. It's $1,000 a year, $99 a month to keep your seat. We charge more for that for just single courses. So again, you can go to the Millionaire Business Network. There's a little video that explains it if you're interested. If you choose to do this, you come spend 2 days with us and we set it all up. Everything is experiential learning. So we come and set it up. We coach and train you and lead you exactly how to do it. That's it. We're still early on, so if you text that and you fill out the application, we're going to do an interview with you. Not everyone, it's not right for everybody. I don't want you to be mad at me, but I want this to be something that's really good. I was communicating with Gary this morning. I said my goal is to find 15 folks that are interested. He said find 16. It's just what he does. But again, what you're looking for is extreme leverage. So imagine being able to say to someone, what's the hardest part of your business? How do you do on the money? How you doing on financials? How you doing on your future growth plan? What's the system you use to find and hire talent? What if I told you that we could get together once a month and work on each other's business together? Would you be interested in that? We found that people have been really receptive. This stuff we have here, these models that exist in Keller Williams, they're really amazing. And I feel like if we know these things, then it's our job to learn them, implement them, and bring others with us. And again, if you offer a service and we like each other and you ask me to send you business, I might do that. I might send you a referral. But if I view you as the person that helped me grow personally and professionally, then you've got not just me, but my database. And that's what comes with it. So we've been seeing some amazing results. I would love to do something here. What do you think, Johnny? Can we do something here? Yeah. Can I end with one last strategy for you? Oh, it's right at the top. Let's do it another time. I am going to end with this. This month, this last we're about 3.5 weeks now, has been the hardest time in my entire life. I've never been in a moment like I've been in now. So I got a call 3 weeks ago, Saturday, and my best friend in the world took his life. And this is just, I don't want to go too deep because I've had a really hard time just maintaining composure. But I started calling my friends because I learned that the number one demographic for this is middle-aged men. I don't think it's just unique to that group. But I was amazed to learn that people I never would have ever guessed would think about something like this. They are. I want you to know this, behind the curtain, everyone struggles with something. And I realize this isn't related to what we talked about today, but I felt like if I had a chance to share this message, then it was important to do it. There's a lot of people that are hurting. There's a lot of struggle in the world. And I want to challenge you to proactively reach out, because the proactive communication and saying to someone, if you're struggling, I want to be the call. If you're having a hard time, let it be me. I think in many cases, hopelessness is preventable when somebody knows someone genuinely cares. One of the things I love about entrepreneurialism in this business is that the dividing line between personal growth and professional growth is so thin that sometimes it's imperceptible. What we learn improves our business, but it also makes us better in our personal relationships. And my challenge is to lean in and go for mastery. And I really hope that something I shared today was helpful to you. You can get what you want if you're willing to do it. And I hope you do. Thanks for letting me come today.